Welcome, hello, Yasu, and hi, my name is Tai Kölner, and today's video is about prejudice and the power of vulnerability. So this topic's grabbed together, so I want to do a video about that today. To those who don't know me yet, make sure to subscribe the channel so you stay updated. And also I introduce a little. My name is Tai Kölner. I'm an author, I'm a black magician, I'm a follower of the draconian path, so also the left-hand path in total, and I'm a student of the left-hand order Dragon Rouge, while I'm a student, not a representative, so guess what, I will not whistleblow orders interns here, I just share with you my perceptions, but this is exactly what comes to the power of vulnerabilities. So, however, I get back to that point. Yeah, so if you got any questions to the order, ask there, because I'm just a student, not a representative. And also, I am an empath since birth. So this is getting together in a nutshell. That's who I am. But what's about today's topic? So at first, there is a much point of prejudice all around us, and prejudice is a character, it's no good character, let's just say it like it is, because if you do prejudice on somebody, this is telling things about you. If you do prejudice on other people, this means you don't want to understand the entire frame of happenings around you. You're happily looking forward to the simplest answer you can get, and so you get an opinion about and you can talk about. This is how prejudice is getting into start. And one thing I did learn on my path very early, just when entering the cliffwood basically, you got things you experience and you think, yes, this is right. And then a few weeks later, you look up onto the same topic and you think, no, I was mistaken. It could also be the other way around. And so you question your first opinion. And if you look at it a few months later, you see that the opinion you had in the first moment and the opinion you had a few weeks later, both are not valid, because it can be this way or the other way around, and this is what opinions makes different. So an opinion is nothing dangerous, but prejudice can be, because an opinion is just you think about it and you try to sort it into a frame which is understandable so you can handle it and you can work with it. That's okay, but you have to be flexible. So if you see it is just the other way around, not blaming you for being wrong, just work your process. If you go into prejudice, you did not even check it, and you are not even willing to change your mind if you see it is wrong. So a prejudice is just, for example, look into this video and you don't like people or you don't like girls. So bye. You're wrong. You're just simply wrong if you're doing so, because maybe you find something what is helping you on your path. So if you put away your prejudice, so your justice about things which you did not even explore, it can open your wide spectrum for your own growth and developments and so on. And this is basically what we are all doing. We are trying to be the best version of ourselves. So best is to work together, to learn from each other's. And if I get into there and say, okay, I don't like people who are from whatever, from Norway, and I don't like people with black hair, and I don't like people which are too fat or whatever, so then I would cut the frame of contacts, of developments and so on, so not get into prejudice against people. I did do another video about that. However, it popped up lately again. Because, you know, now and then there are videos like, ooh, don't work with this demon, it will destroy your life. Well, that people who are telling that in other videos or talkings are mostly people who never met them. That's funny. Because, I mean, I did meet entities long before I did work with demon. And I did get into contact with entities and was occupied by entities for quite of a time frame, and then they left even before I was able to sort the right name to them. So it was just because of my empathy of being wide open and inviting these forces to me that I had the first contact with quite high entities in the beginning. My oldest root I always tell, and in the start of this channel I did tell it as well. My oldest root is Lucifer, and the next one higher entity I did face before I even did work with demon was Belial. So you get two strong forces. And even I would say to you, don't work it without any knowledge before. But in my case, I had no choice. I just swallowed this energy as it was available through one by contact of my mentors back then. And on the second point, it was a ritual around me. Somebody did. And with another intentions. But however, I did, yeah, like an invocation, I did swallow this entity, which other people would name Belial. So it can happen without any knowledge that you get into contact with high entities. And so when people are telling, who they are dangerous, yes, of course, they can be dangerous. But you see me sitting here alive. So and I had no blink about demonology and so on, because it was not my cup of tea back that years. So they don't kill you by just first contact. It also depends on how strong you are. It also depends on what is your mindset. How are you working with them? For example, Lucifer is somebody, if you are working with him, he is a very demanding teacher. And as long you force forward to learn, to grow, to understand things around you, you can have a strong ally at your side. Just one thing Lucifer doesn't like at all: if you get lazy. Then he kicks your ass and you lose everything you did unfold in the last years, and he will make it crash, and you lose your job, probably your family, and maybe even your flat, that long until you see, okay, I have to push forward. I have to pick back my path. I have to work on myself. And when you start working on yourself, guess what? He is supporting you again. So I would say he is a merciless teacher. There are many opinions about him, but this is how I felt him before I even knew his name. Also about Belial. Belial is different if you are a girl or a boy. Belial is somebody who can lead you to living in an extreme frame like violence, drugs, criminal behaviors and so on. But this is to make you unchained from the frames of society, so that you find your own way of living without being a slave of society. This is how Belial is working on people. In my case, I was leaving the place I was living, and I did pack a backpack, and I was on my way into the forest. And the only thing I could do was go into the forest or leave the place I was living. And I did leave the place I was living. I had a friend back then, and I was in communication with this person, and I just said, okay, I have to get out of here for a while. And so I jumped into the train, and I was traveling more than 400 kilometers away from the place I was living all my life before. And I did move in there, and guess what? He's my today's husband. Um, so I had to break away from my entire life to learn who I am, to unfold, to understand. And this was what was Belial doing on me, while I had no idea it was him. So only later, when I started my Clifford work, and when I met seriously brothers who are working with Belial, it was like, hey bitch, there you are, from his energy. One has to say, if Belial is talking like that to a female practitioner, it's more like, hi sweetheart, nice to see you. So it's not really blaming on the person. It was a very warm welcome, and I did recognize the energy of that entity who made me move into the forest is the same entity I found again on other people, and so I understood whom I was working with. Back then I had no idea, so he could have easily crashed myself. So back then, to this prejustice, if people are telling you this is dangerous, you don't do that, and ask them if they ever did work with them. Ask them if they ever were in contact with them. Because yes, there are very strong entities around, and yes, they can be very, very destructive. But these forces are not destructive just by the way of destroying you. They are destructive to peel off the fails, the lies, the social pressures you did build up around you, to peel it away like a freshborn, to see the world as it is, and to see yourself as you are. And there we get to the point of vulnerability. People often think if you're speaking open and if you're sharing your pain, your suffering, your thoughts, that you're weak. It couldn't be more far from that. It is a rope of strength doing so. Because if people, for example, about the entities, if somebody is telling you, this girl is an evil ass, am I? I mean, just scroll back all the videos I did before, and if you know me or if you met me in person, you probably would rather compare me with a sunflower. While, okay, a sunflower has a black dot, right? However, you would tell about me that I am a person who is very open and warm-hearted, and I do not do harm on people just for fun. I rather try to get into communication, I try to exchange my mind, I try to learn from other people, same as I'm giving a possibility to learn from my actions. So I'm a very open and warm-hearted person, if you ask other people around me. So this is a vulnerability that people often misunderstand as a weakness, and it takes a big bunch of strength if you are knowing about the world we are living in, and if you are knowing the blame what is all around and the prejudice what is all around, and you, despite all that, decide to stay open, to share your mind, to share your feelings, so other people can learn. In my beginning of Clifford work, it was a Finnish girl I'm deeply thankful for. She did share some experiences about asteroid and so on, and she did share it in the same vulnerable way as I do. And when I was reading her notes, her poetries, her thoughts, I thought, yes, this is exactly what I'm feeling right now. And this is exactly how I percept right now, but I got no names for it. And only later, when I was working actively with a Clifford, I understood this energy fields and where to sort it. But this open sharing of emotions, what this sister was doing, did help me on my way to find my own path. And so here we come to the productive way of vulnerability. And this is also where it comes together against prejudice. Because if you are open and if you share your work or your character, your personality, your fears, your joy, your perceptions to people who can understand you, they can learn from you. And they get to know you. They get to know your character, and they get to know your personality. So they see you, and they know this one is okay, I can trust into. And so they watch your workings, and they watch your way of living without saying this you have to do. Just do your stuff. Allow the others to follow up your work or your thoughts. Just do your stuff. And while they are watching you, they get the chance to understand why you are doing things, why you are feeling about things in this or that way, why you are not fearing energies what are far more older than we, and probably you can inspire them to find their own path, to find their own direction, I don't care what direction you prefer. What my basic point is to grow. So I don't want to tell you work with a Clifford. Not everyone can do so. I don't want to say go and invoke Lucifer. Not everyone is able to serve his demands on work, because he's really a rough teacher. But on the other hand, I want to inspire you to become the best version of yourself. So you have to face your own shadows, you have to face your fears, you have to understand that it is not just our shell here, but a multiverse of entities, of worlds. And so when people are telling you this or that one is dangerous, don't believe it. I can just say don't believe it. First thing you should ask yourself, did this one who is blaming on that person, or did this one who is blaming on that entity ever met the one who is blaming about? So this would be a sober question before you take over judgments from other people. I want to leave you with these thoughts for today, and I wish you a wonderful weekend. Bye, until next time.